Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. We begin this series on Pope Francis' Apostolic Exhortation, Gaudete et Exultate in Latin, Rejoice and Be Glad, subtitled On a Call to Holiness in Today's World. So today's Do You Know question is, do you know the significance of Pope Francis' Apostolic Exhortation, Rejoice and Be Glad? On March the 19th, 2018, on the Feast of St. Joseph, Pope Francis issued the Apostolic Exhortation called Gaudete et Exultate in Latin, which translates as Rejoice and Be Glad on the Call to Holiness in Today's World. Now, an apostolic exhortation is a papal document that is essentially giving directives to the Catholic community with regards to engaging in a particular activity. It's a pastoral dimension. It's a pastoral document in which it kind of encourages and exhorts people to live the Christian life in a particular way. And it oftentimes addresses issues of particular concerns to Catholic in living in the church and in the world. And so this apostolic exhortation addresses the whole call to holiness of what it means to live and take on the mind and heart of Christ. Now, Pope Francis is a strong advocate of Vatican II vision of church, and so he links his apostolic exhortation very clearly with two main documents of the Second Vatican Council, namely the two documents on the church, Lumen Gentium and Gaudium et Spes. Now, Lumen Gentium offers us the vision of church based on the Christ, who is the light. That's essentially what Lumen Gentium means, the light of the world. And chapter 5 of the dogmatic constitution on the church, Lumen Gentium, articulates the call to holiness for the whole church. And so Pope Francis definitely links his title with that, as well as the linkage to the vision of church in the pastoral constitution on the church in the modern world from Vatican II, known as Gaudium et Spes, the joy and the hope that document, that constitution actually proposes the fact that we are incarnated in the world and our call to holiness is lived out in today's world. And so Pope Francis very clearly wants to affirm that in all the vision of church that comes out of the Second Vatican Council, and he's attempting to articulate that vision in a very practical way as it applies to the call to holiness. Now, in the document that Pope Francis produces are 5 chapters of what I would call reader-friendly, very practical and insightful wisdom on how to live our call to holiness in today's world, namely to respond to our baptismal call to take on the mind and heart of Jesus in all that we say and do. So we're going to spend time often with regards to, by the way, the apostolic exhortation does not address doctrinal issues, but rather, again, encourages and exhorts us in Christian living. What we're going to be doing is spend a chapter, a video on each of the chapters of this document. And I'd like to just quickly summarize some of the key points that Pope Francis makes in this document, which we'll explore in subsequent videos. Pope Francis begins by strongly asserting that the call to holiness applies to all Christians and is not exclusive to the ordained, the bishops, cardinals, or whatever. And then he moves on to propose, at least to offer, 2 significant enemies or to the call to holiness, enemies that place obstacles on the way of living out our call to holiness. And then in a very long chapter, he challenges us to live our call to holiness in light of our Master, modeling ourselves on Jesus, and focuses on the Beatitudes as the key component of Jesus' message in the gospel and in the way he lived and acted. And then continues on with 5 signs of holiness in today's world, and then ultimately closes the document with the challenge of what it means to be a Christian, what's entailed in being Christian in today's world, and the challenge that offers to us, as well as offering us practical wisdom and insight how to address that challenge and live as Christians in today's world. So, as I said, we will devote a video to each one of these chapters, unpacking the content and the advice that Pope Francis gives us through this very important and significant document. And I hope you will take the time to actually watch each video, and at the same time read the relevant chapter concerned with each one of those chapters, so that if you do that, you will actually be really strongly challenged, and yet at the very same time really gain insight and very practical wisdom of how to live our call to holiness in today's world. We are going to add a link to the document so that you can directly access it, and therefore then read along as we articulate and kind of give a video on each of the chapters. So I hope this has helped to explain just a bit of what the significance of Pope Francis' apostolic exhortation, Rejoice and Be Glad, what that significance is for us today, and I hope you will come back to gain more wisdom and insight from Pope Francis in the following videos that we will do in this series. Thank you very much.